This is ONN.
Was found. Deputies say they then raided the suspect's home and found more than a kilo of additional fentanyl. 2 men face charges and are being held on $1 million bond. Cleveland police are investigating the circumstances that led to more than 200 students receiving a sex video involving a teacher at the Genn Academy High School. According to a police report, officers responded to a complaint regarding a sex video involving a teacher and her boyfriend that had been sent to students. The teacher, who says she did not send the video, has been removed from the school during the investigation. I'm Dave James on the Ohio News Network.
Live and local conversation for the Ohio Valley continues shortly, here on the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
Introducing our new redesigned 7 News app. Our new app features a sleek, modern design, an easy-to-navigate home screen with quick access to local news content and a localized weather forecast. Subscribing to notifications is easier, and with one tap, you have access to recent push notifications. There are more ways to watch and find video. To get the new WTRF 7 News app, just update the latest version or download the WTRF 7 News app in your Apple or Google Play Store by searching WTRF.
Stretch your dollar with 11% off everything at Menards. Save big money on your next project right now. We offer the world's best selection of molding with over 1,000 different sizes and styles in stock. Choose from over 400 ready-to-finish woods, primed and water-resistant options, and pre-finished options. Get 11% off everything now at Menards. Good through February 26th. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Babies come with lots of decisions.
Cloth or disposable? Crib or bassinet?
So when it comes to protection, go with the safest, most effective choice, vaccination. Get all the recommended vaccines for your baby by age 2 to protect your child against 14 serious childhood diseases. For more reasons to vaccinate, talk to your child's doctor. Go to cdc.gov/vaccines or call 800-CDC-INFO. A message from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the Watchdog trusts.
Hey, I'm going to the kitchen. Can I grab you a Coors Light?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Huh. I never knew there was a zip line in my fridge. Hey! Hey, buddy! Yeah! You got 2 Coors Lights up there?
You got it! Always brewed down to 34 degrees. With a taste as cold as the Rockies, only Coors Light gives you refreshment every time.
Here you go, 2 Coors Lights.
Awesome, man. Wow, these are really cold.
That's the only way I deliver it.
Sure, I mean, you being a mountain climber and all.
Yep.
You probably need a pretty warm coat in there, huh?
Yep.
Hey, Ben!
Yeah!
Ask him if he has any nachos.
You got any nachos in there?
No.
Just icy cold Coors Light?
Yep.
That makes sense. It is the Rockies.
Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. With great beer comes great responsibility.
Did you know Greer Lime Company's products are used in a variety of environmental applications that impact your everyday life? For example, Greer's Quick Lime and Hydrated products are fundamental to the key processes in drinking water and wastewater treatment, and their high-calcium limestone, Quick Lime, and Hydrate products are used in the removal of acidic pollutants from power plant flue gases. Greer's products are also used in coal mines to treat acid mine drainage and as alkaline amendment. Learn more online at GreerLime.com.
More live and local programming than anyone else in the Ohio Valley. The Watchdog returns in moments.
Hello, everyone, from the Watchdog. I am the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster. With a look at your local weather forecast for your Wednesday. Mostly cloudy skies, a cooler day with a high near 47 degrees. Mostly cloudy through the overnight, a low near 30 degrees. You'll see a mix of clouds and sunshine, along with the threat of a scattered shower for your Thursday, with temperatures in the mid to upper 40s. Have yourself a great day, everyone, from the Watchdog. I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
It's time to start the daily routine.
Hard work being here, but it's an honor.
We're here as a result of hard work.
Hard work?
You're a desk jockey.
I'd love to stay,
But I've got work to do.
It's a dirty, rotten job.
But somebody's got to do it.
Can we start this show now?
We already did, bud.
Showtime!
On FM, on AM, online, on demand, and on video. We are where you are. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe is here now.
I don't want any texts now. This is hard work. This is hard work. All you do, Harris, get on there and talk all day. Hey, I have to slave over this hot mic for 3 hours every... Well, it's 2 hours today. But 3 hours most days slaving over this hot mic. Biff is back there. He's got to juggle 1,000,001 things that I tell him to do. Sometimes I tell him to do it with, like, no warning whatsoever. And he's like a clown. I don't mean he's a clown. I mean he's like a clown juggling, is what I was going to say. Forget the clown. Biff's not a clown. He's like a juggler. I think I'm just going to stop right there. But, hey, this is hard work, no matter what you all have to say. 39 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport, 38 here at my home studios, and 38 at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling, in the heart of the Ohio Valley. We actually have hit our high earlier this morning. We're going to be roaming right around these temperatures for most of the day today. Call it roaming around 40 will be the actual feels temperature for much of the day during the day today. Longtime and popular Jefferson County Sheriff Fred Abdallah died suddenly yesterday. Tributes have been pouring in since that time. We talked earlier this morning to our good friend and WTF TV7 reporter D.K. Wright, who covered the sheriff for years, and we reflected on the life, legacy, and times of Sheriff Fred Abdallah. It was a lot of good conversation with D.K. President Biden ratchets up the sanctions on Russia following what he called the beginning of a Russian invasion in the Ukraine. They're preparing for a state of emergency. In a minute or two, WVU Professor Eric Herron is going to offer some perspective and kind of give us the lay of the land on that. And under the Golden Dome, the GOP legislature continues efforts to concentrate all state power into their own hands. The House okayed placing a constitutional amendment on the ballot to give legislators control over state school board decisions. That now goes to the Senate. The House also considers banning any mask mandates in any school system in the state. And efforts to improve charter schools, not public schools, continue to be pushed through as well. Here's more of what's happening under the Golden Dome with our friend Jeff Jenkins from Metro News.
This is the Metro News Capital Report, brought to you by AARP.
election to fill the spot this fall. Governor Justice will likely choose a replacement either late next month or early April. House Bill 4344 is on third reading today also. It makes some changes in the foster care system, including an additional pay raise for workers in child protective services and adult protective services of 15%. That would be in addition to the 5% raise the governor and lawmakers are considering. State Police Superintendent Jan Cahill says he's hopeful a locality pay bill moving through the House of Delegates will eventually gain final legislative approval and improve staffing numbers in the Eastern Panhandle. Cahill says the bill would allow him to pay troopers up to $10,000 more a year.
We did feel like just rolling out something like an extra $1,500 was probably not going to move the needle very much. So if the $10,000 goes to go through, we feel like that definitely could move the needle.
That bill is now in the House. I'm Jeff Jenkins on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
Another bill that's got unions in the state really concerned is the one that cuts unemployment benefits. The number of weeks would be dramatically cut. There was a protest in Charleston yesterday about that. And tomorrow, here on the Watchdog Morning Show, we'll talk with Glenn Giffen about that, why the unions are distressed with the cut in unemployment benefits and what they are doing about it. And that'll be tomorrow here on the Watchdog Morning Show. Quarter after the hour, it's 8:15. The big story over the last couple of days on the national scene, international scene, has been Russia, Ukraine, invasion. There's a question mark there. The sanctions that President Biden put out. Here's a quick look at the latest on that from our friends at ABC.
Aggression in the parts of Ukraine declared independent by Russia. ABC's Aaron Katursky is there and describes it as another potential false flag claim by Russia.
The Russian-controlled separatists have claimed 2 large terrorist attacks, as they called them, took place in their territory. They've been intensifying efforts to create a pretext for a possible Russian attack, and these latest claims followed a number of fake reports and debunked accusations. Ukraine released video that it said showed the separatists firing rockets on a village on the Ukrainian side of the front line. The separatists may be trying to provoke return fire to create the impression of an escalation.
The White House announcing sanctions against Russia over the aggression, including
full blocking sanctions on 2 large Russian financial institutions, VEB and Bank, both of which have close links to the Kremlin and the Russian military. Collectively, they hold more than $80 billion in assets.
That's Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
I wanted to get the lay of the land a bit on Russia, the Ukraine, some history behind it, what's going on. We had a history lesson apparently from Vladimir Putin earlier this week, and I'm not sure how accurate it was. I invited to join us this morning from WVU, the Eberly Professor of Political Science, Eric Herron. Professor, good morning. Welcome to the show. Thank you for taking time out of your morning to join us here today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Be a little bit academic with me, and then we'll get more real-world stuff here in a second. But remembering we don't have a 55-minute class, but still, give me sort of a little history lesson of the Ukraine-Russia relations between them. Vladimir Putin laid out his sort of historical perspective on this. Was he right? Was he wrong? Just sort of put this all in perspective for us, if you could.
Sure. So let's start with a short history. Let's start with 2013, 2014. In 2013, there was a Russian-leaning or pro-Russian president of Ukraine, Viktor Yanukovych. And Viktor Yanukovych decided not to move Ukraine closer to Western European institutions. And the corruption of his regime and this decision to push back against cooperation with Europe prompted large-scale protests that ended up in him being ousted in 2014. And Russia looks at that moment in a very different way than Ukrainians or Europeans or Americans. So the U.S., European Union, Ukrainians look at this as essentially a kind of liberation moment. Ukraine transition toward democracy, which had been kind of halted by Yanukovych's presidency, ramped up again. Russia looked at this as the West interfering in Ukraine. They didn't really believe that this protest movement was sort of natural or indigenous. They really thought it was being promoted by the West. And so after this ouster of Yanukovych, this is where the Russian invasion really starts. So you have Russian troops going into Crimea, the little green men who aren't wearing official uniforms but are really part of the Russian military, and Crimea is annexed. And then you have actions promoted by Russia all over eastern Ukraine, which end up setting up these Donetsk People's Republic and Luhansk People's Republic that we've heard a lot about. And so that's a kind of short history. There was a hot war between 2014 and 2015 in eastern Ukraine that has settled down but has still caused casualties over the last 8 years. So the Russian invasion started 8 years ago and has really not stopped. What we're looking at now is an escalation, and a substantial escalation in that. And we can talk about the kind of deep history of Ukraine and Ukrainian-Russian relations if you want, but I think for right now, this more recent history is really relevant for looking at what we're facing today.
And Vladimir Putin's concern of the moment, or of recent moments, or even recent years, is that he's concerned that Ukraine is leaning too far to the West?
I actually think his concerns about Ukraine run a little bit deeper than that. Ukraine is not a threat to Russia in a military way. It's also not an economic threat to Russia. But Ukraine threatens Russia in a way that concerns Putin and Putin's allies. And that's that Ukraine's a fledgling democracy. Having that example next door is a problem for Putin. It shows the Russian people that there's an alternative. Since 2000, Ukraine's had 5 presidents. Russia's technically had 2, but Putin's always been in control.
Right.
2 of the Ukrainian presidents lost elections after 1 term and left office peacefully. Russia doesn't hold elections that Putin can lose. So seeing that kind of example next door is really threatening. And so it's not just about the West, although Putin is definitely concerned about NATO and NATO expansion. I think the deeper concern for Putin is about what Ukraine represents to him and his ability to maintain control in Russia.
I asked this question to our Pentagon reporter yesterday, and I don't know if I'm way off base on this or not. Does Putin have a desire deep down inside to recreate the USSR?
So, yeah, this is a great question. And, psychologically analyzing Putin is well above my pay grade. But I would say that if we think about his motivations, we can imagine that, if he's just worried about his own power and his own economic well-being, because Putin has sort of siphoned off money from the Russian economy and has made himself a very wealthy man. He does a good job of hiding it, so it doesn't appear to be his personal wealth, but he is a very wealthy man, and that's at the expense of the Russian people. So if he's just trying to maintain his yachts and his mansions and his bank accounts hidden all over the world, then he might be less likely to take risks in a place like Ukraine. But if he is envisioning himself not necessarily reconstituting the Soviet Union, but being a leader in Russia who restores territories that he and many Russians believe are rightfully Russia's, and his legacy is restoring Russia to greatness, if that's really what's motivating him, then we might see more risk from him and the chance of a greater conflict. And what worries me, and once again, I want to be very careful, I'm not able to really psychologically analyze him, but some of the clues we see on the ground do suggest that he has these broader ambitions, and it's not just about his personal wealth. I mean, the fact that the Nord Stream 2 pipeline was just shut down by Germany, the certification process, and the sanctions that are coming, these are going to have economic costs for him, his friends, his allies, his family, and they don't seem to be effective deterrents at the moment. So it's likely he has broader goals.
Yeah, as you say, you don't, you at least study this stuff. I'm just a guy on the radio, but I sense he has been willing to take more risks, do some things that to me haven't necessarily been logical even in the last handful of days. It's just me. I know nothing, but just the way I look at it, which suggests there's a deeper issue at work here for Vladimir Putin. Can I ask you a basic but yet dumb question? How old is Putin?
I believe he's in his 70s, but I don't actually recall his age.
Okay. I just, part of me is wondering is he looking at legacy? Is he looking at how much longer is he there in control? And I'm not quite even sure the question I'm asking, but it's been kind of running through my mind lately about, how much longer will he be the guy in control and how much of that dictates what he's doing, perhaps the risks he's taking. I don't know if that's something that we ought to be figuring in or not.
Well, there are a lot of people who believe he is thinking about his legacy and that legacy of restoring Russia to greatness. I mean, if you listen to his speech, and I listened to his whole speech on Russian television, it's really similar to an essay he wrote a few months ago about the situation in Ukraine, his interpretation of Ukraine, his interpretation of how Russia relates to the rest of the world. And there is a deep, deep sense of grievance that comes from him. And it really came out in his speech, not only in the words he used, but the tone of his voice. He's angry about how he believes Russia was misled in the 1990s. He's angry about how he believes Russia was mistreated by the West, especially, again, in the 1990s. And so some of his actions are to restore Russia to the greatness that he perceives, was represented in the Soviet Union. It's not about the Soviet Union as a way of governing a society or an ideology, but the Soviet Union as a great power. So I do think that there is, some of this clearly motivating him. He has said it in writing. He said it in his speech. And Ukraine is in the crosshairs now for, him advancing these kinds of personal goals to make history.
Sanctions have been put on him by President Biden. Some tough sanctions yesterday. The Nord Stream thing we dealt with, you mentioned. Biden has said that if Putin pushes ahead, tougher sanctions could be coming. There's a huge call for even tougher sanctions coming politically from particularly Republicans in this country. Is Putin testing the strength of Biden, NATO, and the West by pushing the limits of these things? Or will these sanctions, will he back off?
Well, he is definitely constantly pushing and testing the West, and that is not just in Ukraine. I think if we want to look at what Putin's approach has been and how effective it's been, I think President Trump recently said his approach was genius, or something to that effect. But if Putin's goals are to subjugate Ukraine and to push back against what he perceives as Western threats, his moves have really been far from genius. Ukraine is more united today than it was a decade ago, and it's united against Russian influence. NATO is forward deploying more troops to the Baltics, to Poland, so more troops close to Russia. NATO countries are supplying Ukraine with weapons to fight back against Russian aggression. As we've already talked about, he lost the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which is really important to Russian economic interests. These economic sanctions that we've been talking about will hurt, and there will be more. The world community has called out Russia, and even China, which I think he believed was allied with him early on in this process. It's been ambiguous in its responses, and it hasn't really directly supported Putin's claims. So this gambit has not been particularly genius for him, and I think there will the real costs for him and for the Russian people.
It is interesting, though, that President Biden also said yesterday that the American people will have to face some consequences in terms of the sanctions may mean higher prices of gas, et cetera, et cetera. So people in both countries may find themselves suffering a bit because of the desire of Putin to push forward. Professor Heron, let me ask you this. Sort of, and you've kind of really answered it throughout our conversation here, but in a broad sense, why should we care? Isn't it really just a Ukrainian problem anyway? I mean, okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really important question. Your listeners, in West Virginia, and Ohio, and Pennsylvania, we're all far away from Ukraine, and it's a conflict that a lot of people probably didn't know where Ukraine was on a map, hadn't paid attention to Ukraine until the last few weeks. And so it's a legitimate question, why does this matter to us? But it matters in a lot of ways. First, a large-scale European war, and this has the potential to ramp up into a large-scale European war, will have direct effects on all of us. You mentioned the economic effects, and absolutely there will be economic effects. There are listeners of yours who have friends and family members in the military. And while American troops aren't going to be deployed in Ukraine, NATO is redeploying its forces and forward deploying them. And these kinds of moves will have a direct impact on military families. But a deeper issue is that Russia, and Putin said this directly in his speech, Russia views the West and the United States as their, if not their enemies, they have a hostile attitude toward the United States and the West. They believe it's because the United States and the West are hostile toward them. But the reality is that Putin makes moves regularly, and Russia makes moves regularly to weaken the United States, to weaken the United States' security, to weaken the United States economically. And all of these things will have direct effects on us. And I would also add that we don't know how the war will play out as it expands. And if it expands to a large-scale European conflict, we could see effects on, there could be cyber war that affects us directly. There could be interruptions to other kinds of infrastructure that we just take for granted, but really do rely on these global connections. So it matters to us. And just a last point, and I think this is not one that convinces a lot of people, but I think it is important. The United States is safer when there are more democracies in the world. And defending a country or helping a country defend itself that is striving to become a democracy really is in the United States' interest.
Before I let you go, give us some guidance here. What should we be watching for in this situation over the next several days? What kinds of steps or actions or movement or, what are some things that we as an average citizen ought to be paying attention to that could be meaningful as we move forward here?
So Putin, in many ways, has already sketched out in his speech and his activities in the last 24 to 48 hours some of the things we might expect. So there are kind of two scenarios that people have talked about, a bunch in between. But the one scenario is a large-scale invasion of Ukraine from really all sides. On the other end is an incremental escalation of the invasion. We're really focused on eastern Ukraine and this Donbass region that we've been talking a lot about. And I think that second scenario is the most likely. So President Putin clarified that his announcement of independence or recognizing independence for this Donetsk People's Republic and Luhansk People's Republic didn't just cover the territory that they currently occupy, but the whole territory that they claim. So if you think about these regions of Ukraine like states, and, the Donetsk People's Republic and Luhansk People's Republic, like a part of those states. So if southern West Virginia was occupied by separatist forces, and northern West Virginia was, defending itself against those. What Putin is saying is that all of West Virginia really belongs to these separatist forces. And so what we are likely to see is engagements that move troops forward. I mean, there's a city of 500,000 people called Mariupol it's also in the crosshairs. It's on the coastline. It's an important city. It's a port city that Russia and the separatist forces it supports tried to take years ago. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see efforts to advance in that direction. But really, what has been, and I think the United States has done a tremendous job of this, and UK as well, releasing intelligence to kind of undermine Russia's claims. So what we're going to see are false flag operations, claims that Ukraine is attacking, and that Russia and its so-called peacekeeping troops are responding in defense. These are the kinds of things we should be looking for, and I would expect them to be incremental in eastern Ukraine. Obviously, that could change. And just one last point, if people want to look at the kind of analogous situation, it looks like Russia is taking a page from the NATO playbook in the sense that it looks at the situation in Kosovo in the late 1990s and is trying to kind of repeat that from its own point of view with Ukraine.
Professor, I appreciate your time this morning. Some good analysis, some good perspective, which is, I think, what we need on this. And I may check in with you from time to time as the situation continues to move forward, but I really do appreciate you giving me some time this morning. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Professor Eric Heron is a WVU professor of political science. Russia and the Ukraine are his particular areas of expertise, and gave us some really good overviews and insights into what's going on there. We'll continue to follow the story of the Ukraine and Russia throughout the day, throughout the week, and see how things go. Now, let's come back home where we have breaking news in downtown Wheeling. The Wheeling Police Department is confirming there's a white male carrying a rifle near West Banco in downtown Wheeling. Cops got a call about 7 o'clock this morning. Crews are on their way looking for a white male in a gray hoodie who has a rifle. Another report came in saying that the man was walking towards the Wheeling Inn in downtown Wheeling. So we'll stay on top of this. Our friends at WTRF TV are following this story closely. I'll let you know what I find out, and Channel 7 will keep you fully informed throughout the day as well. But Wheeling PD confirms a male carrying a rifle is walking through downtown Wheeling as of 7 o'clock this morning and continuing to right now. Police are attempting to track him down, find out exactly what's going on. I'll have more info for you as I get it here on the Watchdog Morning Show. Here's some other headlines from WTRF TV about some other news.
Now it's time for your local news headlines from 7 News at WTRF. My Ohio...
Excuse me. Biff, is there another status report, or do we just get one an hour? Okay. So we have a new one. We ran one at 7:15. We have another, or 8:15. I mean, we have another one we could run. Okay. All right. Let's think about doing that in this next segment. Thanking you. Biff, if I will too, but keep your eye on Twitter to see if there's any more info about the downtown rifle guy.
Today that he has been chosen as a first-team Big 12 all-academic selection. McNeil currently working on his master's in business administration, and Jalen Bridges earning second-team Big 12 all-academic honors. He's a major in sport management. Our pregame tonight begins at 6 with the opening tip set for 7, WVU against Iowa State. That is today's Mountaineer Report, and it's brought to us by Kroger, the official grocer of WVU Athletics. I'm Tony Caridi on the Mountaineer Sports Network from Learfield.
Always on Talkline on Metro News, we talk with the leaders of the state of West Virginia, like Governor Jim Justice. And on a recent show, the governor said he would consider a pay raise for public employees and school teachers during the next session of the legislature.
We'll absolutely look at it. And from my standpoint, I would be a proponent, because I want to try to help any and everybody I possibly can.
Keep up with what's happening at West Virginia Talkline, weekdays at 10:06 right here on this Metro News radio station. We'll talk to you then.
A serious injury from an accident can be just the start of your worries. What if you cannot return to work? How do you take care of your family if you're disabled? At Gelner Law Offices, we represent seriously injured people and understand their problem. We know how to get you fair compensation. We will work hard to make sure you get the money you deserve for your losses. Don't go it alone. If you're hurt in an accident, call us at 304-242-2900 or visit us at gelnerlaw.com.
We'd like to help.
Now is the time to explore Toyota's wide range of all-wheel and four-wheel drive vehicles. Like the brand new Corolla Cross with available all-wheel drive and more cargo room than ever. Or go off-road in a rugged new 4Runner. Visit your Toyota dealer today or go online to buyatoyota.com, the official website for deals. Hurry, offers end February 28th. Toyota, let's go places.
We just got a $40,000 bill for your surgery.
What? The insurance company said it would be covered. What happened?
Unfortunately, this surprise medical bill scenario is far too common. Thanks to recently passed legislation, Ohioans will no longer receive surprise medical bills for emergency care or unexpected out-of-network care. If you believe that you've received a medical bill in error, contact the Ohio Department of Insurance at 1-800-686-1526 or insurance.ohio.gov.
February is Children's Dental Health Month, so make sure you make an appointment for your child to visit an Ohio Dental Association member dentist. ODA member dentists are located throughout the state and are dedicated to providing the highest quality dental care, are bound by the highest ethical standards, and have access to superior ongoing education and training. On your next visit, ask if your child's dentist is a member of the Ohio Dental Association and American Dental Association, so you know you're being treated by the best. To find an ODA dentist in your area, visit associationsadvanceohio.com.
Over the years, you've brought opioids into your home. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But holding on to opioids puts your family at risk. Learn more at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Stretch your dollar with 11% off everything at Menards. Save big money on your next project right now. Update your floors with Great Lakes Flooring. Great Lakes Vinyl Plank Flooring is durable for high traffic areas. Plus, it's waterproof and easily clicks together. Right now, all Great Lakes Flooring is 11% off. Get 11% off everything now at Menards. Good through February 26th. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Follow us on Facebook for the latest news, show updates, podcasts, alerts, and live video streams from the Valley's only network dedicated to local, community-driven talk radio, The Watchdog. You want sports talk? We got the goods all night long. Tune into Sports Map Radio, evenings and overnights on FM 98.1, AM 1600. We are The Watchdog.
Broadcasting from the Ohio Valley, talking about the Ohio Valley. We're live and local. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
Temperature hanging in at 38 degrees, Wheeling, Ohio County Airport, 38 degrees here at my home studios, and 38 degrees at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling. In the heart of the Ohio Valley, going to be mainly overcast and breezy during the day today. Could see a little peak of sunshine here and there, but mostly an overcast, breezy kind of day. Following the story of a man wandering downtown Wheeling with a rifle. It is interesting. I see some folks already posting on Facebook, what's wrong with that? People are allowed to have guns. Yeah, but it makes people nervous if you're just walking, guy in a hoodie is walking through the streets carrying a rifle. And I think it's appropriate for the police to say, excuse me, sir, what you up to? So that's, we're keeping an eye on that, and I will let you know if we discover any more, or Channel 7 is continuing to follow the story as well. But a male carrying a rifle near West Banco earlier this morning around 7 o'clock, most recently reported seen walking towards the Wheeling Inn. And again, I don't know where he, or it's just a he or she, it's not a she, it's a he. I don't know where he may be at the moment, or if the cops have found him and said, oh, you're okay, and go on. But Channel 7 will keep on following it. We'll keep following it. The watchdogs will let you know if anything develops during their show this morning here. When I turn things over to them at 9 o'clock. It's 8:48 right now, a dozen before the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. Coming up after 10 o'clock, of course, Hoppy Kercheval. Among other things, Hoppy will be talking about is reinstating the film tax credit in West Virginia. Handful of years ago, they took the film tax credit away. Now they've decided it's a good idea to bring it back, so maybe more films will be made in West Virginia. I don't have strong feelings one way or another. I'm not sure a lot of movies are going to be made here, but there have been some, so okay. McElhenney will be in as well. And a look at some changes coming to the John Chambers College of Business and Economics at WVU, primarily centered on new programs for high schoolers as a result of a big grant that they got. So that's some of what's coming up today. Statewide talk line, Mr. Kercheval is here after 10 o'clock, and the legislative watchdogs are in before that to talk about what's going on down in Charleston. The two themes, I just will throw this out, and I'm not going to spend time on it today. I've spent it before. I'll spend it again. The two themes I'm seeing played out very, very clearly in Charleston. The GOP-led legislature is trying to usurp all authority into and unto themselves. They want to eliminate the authority of school boards. So right now they're talking about banning any school board from making any decisions about masks. They just want to make it banned. They won't do it. Forget local control there. Of course, we know they've been talking about taking local control from cities and so on. They've been talking about, creating policies that would force the cities to give up some of their revenue. So it's all taking local control. There's a constitutional amendment that the House has approved, but the Senate has got to still deal with, that might go before voters, that would allow the state legislature to have control over the state school board decisions, because of course, people elected because they have enough money to run attack ads surely should know the best thing to do for running schools. There's been a huge effort made this year to diminish public education, to make teachers more anxious and angry dealing with their annual leave, to create this fear in the school system because of the so-called Anti-Stereotyping Act. The two things I see in the legislature this year, an attack on public education and an attempt to take all authority in the state into themselves. So I didn't get into it today, but we'll talk more about some of this stuff tomorrow and as time goes by here on the Watchdog Morning Show as we begin running closer and closer to the end of the session. The big story we have been following across the country over the last couple of weeks, and certainly the last couple of days, has been the tensions in Ukraine. Russia's moving into some of the separatist regions of Ukraine. President Biden imposing serious sanctions yesterday and saying more could be coming. Our team at ABC News continues to follow that story for us throughout the day.
Officials in Ukraine are taking steps to prepare in case there is further escalation on the part of Russia. The Biden administration continuing to warn of a full-scale invasion ABC's Aaron Katursky is in Ukraine with more.
The government of Ukraine is bracing for a Russian escalation. Officials here said a state of emergency is about keeping things calm and allowing the economy to function. But it also allows for things like curfews, vehicle inspections, and restrictions on transport if necessary. The idea, officials said, is to give the authorities flexibility to respond to any danger, but to keep the impact on daily life to a minimum.
Western countries, including the U.S., have issued economic sanctions against Russia. Germany has halted certification of a pipeline to bring natural gas to Germany. ABC's James Longman is in Moscow.
Former President Medvedev has been taunting Europeans, saying, soon you'll be paying $2,000 for gas. But the suspension of that important gas pipeline to Germany was a step not many people expected and would mean a major hit to Russia.
I'm Sherry Preston, ABC News.
More details coming up at the top of the hour. Remember, ABC covers this story and more every hour, top of the hour here on the Watchdog all throughout the day, 24 hours a day. So you can stay on top of the news by just making sure you check in with ABC at the top of the hour. We have throughout the day our regional news and local news at half past the hour here in the morning show, WTRF TV 7 News, as well as Metro News, all throughout the midday. Metro News at half past the hour, Ohio News, top of the hour too. And don't forget, start and end your day here with a complete hour of news from WTRF TV. 6 o'clock in the morning before I get going here, you can catch all of the Ohio Valley news from WTRF TV live from the studios of Channel 7. 6 to 7 o'clock, it's TV 7's morning news. And then in the evening, as you head home, and again, this was really helpful to me the other day. I happened to be out and about in the 5 o'clock hour, and I really wanted to know what some of the news was. So I was able to listen on the radio on AM 1600, AM 1370, FM 98.1, FM 97.7, and catch the WTRF TV 7 news from 5 to 6 o'clock. 5 to 5:30, it's the Channel 7 local news, including sports and weather. And then 5:30 until 6 o'clock, it is our friend Mark Curtis and his team down in Charleston covering stories from all around the state. And, of course, don't forget, at noon, right before the Bill DeFabio Variety Show, you'll be able to check in with Channel 7 News direct from the anchor desk of TV 7 for the noon news, beginning at noon for 10 or 15 minutes to get all of the headlines up to speed, including, of course, today they'll probably have more on this guy walking around downtown with a rifle, which we hope ends without any problems, but it's just the beginning of that story. They'll have it for you. And I mentioned the Bill DeFabio Variety Show, of course, today is a Wednesday, which means it's Bill's day off. So the mayor and vice mayor have their show. You're Wheeling, no two ways about it. I don't know if the mayor's going to be back or not. The mayor has been on full-fledged baby duty, Biff, over the last couple of weeks. He's been...
Yes, he has, and the vice mayor has been doing well filling in for him.
And I'm trying to think, I saw who they have coming up today on their show. Sounded interesting. I can't remember who it was. But anyways, today, You're Wheeling, no two ways about it. Vice Mayor will be there. I don't know if the mayor's coming in for the show or not. He has, I don't know if you've seen any pictures of his new son, Biff, on Facebook. Have you seen some of those pictures?
I have seen some of them.
The baby, you know, you sometimes interpret what babies are thinking. That baby, Glenn Elliott and Cassandra's baby, has a look that says, so you think you're in charge, right? You may be the mayor of the city, but I think you need to learn now who's running this household. That's what I'm hearing that baby say. It's in his head. Absolutely delightful looking little kid. And the mayor has really been spending his time, changing diapers and taking care of the kid along with his wife. And that's the sign of a good papa and a good husband. And so we'll see if he's coming in today. Then the ladies will be in today at 1, winging it. And then Butch is in it too, right? On Wednesdays?
I believe so. I haven't heard anything different.
Yeah, I think Butch is in today too. And then, of course, it's Dave Weekly and Hotline from 3 to 5 o'clock, which I got to tell you has become a show that has become a mainstay of mine. I listen to it every day. He calls it a politics-free zone, although they do delve into politics. You get all of the news of the day. Dave does a statewide news roundup. They have huge amount of sports coverage. WTRF TV 7, Stephen Moore has Ohio Valley headlines as part of the Hotline show. Lots of information and just some good fun conversation for you to kind of wrap up the day. So don't forget to check out Dave weekly from 3 to 5 o'clock every afternoon here on the Watchdog. A couple of quick tidbits off the, this is sort of the news wire that we don't make, doesn't make the top news. New study is out this month. It found that people who have had COVID-19, have already had COVID-19, are at an increased risk for cardiovascular disease at least a year after their recovery. So this is a new study. Research says that people who had COVID have a higher risk of cardiovascular disease than those who were never infected, of having heart failure, heart attacks, strokes, clotting. These are things that, the risks that increase after having COVID. You had COVID, the COVID has passed, you're now negative. These are still things that can go on. Watch out for that. So COVID has lingering effects, and a new study is out that says that those with prior COVID were more than 60% more likely to develop a cardiac issue than those who did not have COVID. That's a pretty big deal. And the risk was seen even in those who had a mild case of COVID, although depending on how severe COVID was, in your case, your likelihood of a more severe heart problem increases as well. Why? Researchers say they're not sure what the connection is, but they have found that connection. So those who had COVID, now are out of it, recovering, have a dramatically increased risk for cardiovascular disease at least a year after COVID passes them by. All right, that's it. I got to go. The Watchdogs have a lot to say today, so they're coming up next. As for me, good Lord willing, creeks don't rise, bat phone doesn't ring. Don't get impeached, don't retire, and as always, Teddy says, it's all right. You can go back to work tomorrow, Granddad. I'll be back tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock, and the go around the big gig. Are you back with me, Biffy?
I am here for a Thursday.
Well, I think we should keep on doing it until we get it right.
That could be a long time.
I was better on time today, though. I was closer on time. I really was getting a little bit better than I was yesterday.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
From ABC News.
Okay, Biffy. Yeah, wasn't too bad, really. DK was good. She only cried a little bit. That's, I figured she would tear up at some point. That's DK, so it was not too bad at all. Professor Heron was good. I had him on once before. I'd forgotten. When I reached out to him yesterday, he reminded me he'd been on before. He was actually pretty good, too. I need to make sure. I have some of these guests that I forget are good. I need to put them in the bring them back occasionally file, so he's good. Before you go to the dogs, how was Bill this morning? Okay. Didn't have anything to say. Didn't say that the show's wearing him out or anything like that. Okay. All right. I just try and keep an eye on how he's doing. I have a hard time figuring out how he's doing. Yeah, well, he's not much for conversation, period, but I do talk to him not a good bit, but I try and talk to him every day. I'm trying to get a feel for how he really feels, I mean, I know he's Howard, I want to do it. I want to get back to normal, and I want him to, but I've been there. I just worry about him pushing himself too much. All right. Well, I'm going to get out, let you get back with the Watchdogs. I'm going to grab some quick breakfast here, and then I'll be down in an hour to the radio station. So If there's anything else we need to talk about, you can snag me when I'm down there. All right. Otherwise, well, I will see you this afternoon, and then I will talk to you in the morning as well. Thanks a lot. As always, I really appreciate your help. Bye.
Hola, Carla speaking.
Carla's roofing company always goes above and beyond.
Yeah, we heard about next week's forecast.
She needs a new foreman to weather a storm of projects.
You mean another full crew before Wednesday? Mira, Jose, can you work Wednesday?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and